Welcome back, everyone. My name is Kareen Mills, and I'm your host. We are blessed today to have Miss Michelle Elder, who also has a podcast that I was on, The Law of Attraction in Action. And I'm so excited to hear a different side of her. On the flip side, we always begin to talk about your childhood. So, first, welcome, Michelle. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Great.
Good.
It's awesome for moms today because Portland, Oregon area is snowed in and we don't know how to do life with snow. So,
The whole city shuts down, and I live in a hilly area, so I'm always very grateful when it shuts down because I
yeah,
don't want to leave where I live. It's bad.
right? Right? Safer that way. And my husband
Yeah,
would not let me drive in this types of conditions. So,
yeah.
I wouldn't either, but I've tried before and it's scary. So, welcome.
Thank you. And by the way, I
Yes.
go by Joy as well, Michelle Joy. So
Oh,
it's
good.
confusing for a lot of people. I always think about names. We always think, well, this is our name and this is what we should stick with. But I think whenever we reinvent ourselves, it's good to change our names. And so Elder is actually my ex-husband's name. So Joy, it's not changed legally yet, but I go by both. So it's very confusing for people. But I want to put it out there because all my stuff is under Michelle Joy.
Awesome. Well, thank you
Yeah,
for clarifying that.
yeah.
Girlfriend, you can do whatever you want,
I
right?
know. I love that, right? I love that.
Cool. Well, hey, let's talk about your childhood because I love diving deep into people's childhood only because I believe that everything that we go through in those monumental decades of our life,
Mm-hmm.
during our first decade or even second decade,
Mm-hmm.
are a huge contributor to a lot of the things that happens to us and things that we do subconsciously when we become adults. So take us through that journey. How was that? What types of things that you can take away from your childhood that you think that is leading you to who you are
Oh,
today?
absolutely. My childhood was extremely impactful. I grew up with a single mom with 6 kids. I was 18 months old when my dad left. So basically, one day he said, I don't love you anymore, and I can't handle having so many kids. And my mom was, at the time, a stay-at-home mom and had no money and no way to make money because she didn't have a job. So you can imagine growing up where at 18 months old, my family fell apart. And so I grew up with a very strong sense of, well, I was ignored because my family was so busy. My older siblings had to try to take care of me. They're all 4 years apart, and there's a 7-year gap, and my brother and I were born, and my brother and I are 2 years. We're all full blood. But during
Wow.
that time, I realized how you know, I felt so ignored and not loved, but I never complained about it because our family was, just doing the best they could. So
Mm,
instead, I bottled it up. And so my childhood was very sad. I rarely smiled. I felt,
wow.
I know my mom loved me, but she just couldn't be there for me. She became a realtor. I mean, she's just, my mom is so badass. She's amazing. She should be on your show for what she's done. But she, made found a way to make it work. But in order to do that as a single mom with 6 kids, she had to be gone a lot. So she had to rely on my siblings, and they were teenagers. They didn't really want to have to take care of two little kids. And so my story, my tape, what I told myself as a kid is I'm not loved. I don't fit in.
Mm,
And I'm the only redhead out of 6 kids. I was
wow.
the dancer. I never liked sports. I'm like such the black sheep, Kareen. I don't know where I came from.
You stuck out like a sore thumb.
Oh, I did. I did. But, truly, Kareen, that's when I look back in my life and who I am today. I am the person I am today because of, I had to find meaning to me, because I didn't fit in with my family. And it's more than just, they don't love me. I felt different. I always knew I was different.
Mm,
And so what I did actually, which is a funny story, in 8th grade, I became goth. And this is in the
wow.
80s when nobody was doing this, right? And so my family is, in many ways they did support me. They thought it was weird. But my mom actually really praised me for it because she knew I had the courage to be different, and she really appreciated that. So one thing about my mom, she's always been very positive and always has given me lots of love and believed in me. And so even in my goth stage, she really saw it as a gift. And so fast forward now, I don't know if I want to fast forward, but the point is my childhood made me courageous. My childhood made me bold and not afraid to stand out in a crowd. That's a blessing, right? Especially in the
Oh,
speaking
wow.
world, right?
I mean, a lot of us, like self-love, self-promotion, all these stuff are just now popping up, but Michelle Joy has been doing it all her life.
Yeah. And I
So
was really
that's
shy
awesome.
as a kid too. I was, believe it or not, I was really shy. It wasn't until my 20s when I became a nurse that I kind of broke that shell. But yeah, it's so interesting to see who we were then and who we become and how they relate, right? Which is why you do this show.
Wow.
It's really fascinating.
Yeah, well, I want to take you back through the bottling part because there's a lot there of what you just said that I want to kind of dive a little bit deeper into. And the other reason that I do this podcast is also not only to mother the world, but also to hopefully the people that don't have a mother,
Mm-hmm.
foster children, um, maybe an adoptive child that just don't feel quite at home, or they belong to, the home that they live in or their adopted family, and allow those kids in those profound years growing up to really be mothered by people like you and me, plugging into my podcast to sort of be mothered by a collective mom, like all of us, learning a little bit from all of us, because I know that when you're a child, it could be so isolating and it could be so lonely, especially when you don't have somebody to relate to. And you know that, and I know that because we've been through those moments in our lives. So talk to me about how that feels to bottle a lot of things, because I'm really also a proponent of like minimizing the teenage suicidal rates, and there's a ton of those, and maybe social media is just like magnifying everything, and maybe they've just been happening all our lives. We just are now have so much access to everything and faster than we've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
When you talk about that, talk about from a kid's perspective as well, and really give our children of today and maybe the teenage of today an advice on how you really handle that, and what outlets did you go through or did you not have, and how do you think you would change that looking back?
Well, again, during the years when I was goth, it was a really fascinating time for me because there was a part in me, and I was 14 at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and there's just this little seed in me that says I'm going to be me no matter what. So that was like, it was, my internal was not able to express it because I was so shy and I couldn't tell people how I felt. So what I did is I did it externally through how I looked.
Mm.
And so my physical stance became my expression of, yes, I'm different and I'm okay with it. It was like this power within me.
Wow.
But I did bottle a lot up. You look back at all my pictures, there's not a lot of pictures of me when I was a kid, but I really smiled. And in fact, there was so much pain that I held on for years that
Mm-hmm.
I moved away from Denver when I was just barely 19 without like any plan. It's not like I moved away to college. I moved to Portland from Denver with
Wow.
2 boxes and clothes and like $200. And I didn't really have a plan. And I just knew I had to leave Denver. And I remember when I left, I was like, I'm never coming back. Like I was so angry at my family.
Wow.
But I did have to go back every year. I'm really, really close to my mom. I've always been close to her. But so I go back every year and I cry every single year. But
When
so
you go back or when you leave?
no, when I'm there, I completely melt down. Like I
Wow.
would cry. And it's the thing, it's so deep. So this is the bottled up part. Then we don't have a place to express it when you're young. I expressed it through being goth and being able to express myself externally, but I still was really hurt inside. And I felt like, again, you take 6 siblings and there's my 5 and there's me, it's just to be so different from this big family that's so caring or so close, and I don't fit in. It's a horrible feeling, right?
Wow.
And so for me, I held on to that tape for so long. And Kareen, what really shifted me is the awareness that I am the person I am because of that. I got strength and I had the courage to move away when I was 19 without a plan. How many people can do that, right?
At 19, not much.
I was very courageous, and I was very an outside the box thinker. I did not give into fitting in. There could have been an urge for me when I was young, say, well, you know what, I'm just going to be like them because then they'll like me. But
Wow.
I couldn't do it.
Like fitting in.
Right. And so years later, I realized that my past was not something there to hurt me. It was something there to make me the person I am. And I became courageous. I became, outside the box thinker. I am absolutely passionate and compassionate for others because I know what suffering is like. Because I suffered so much, I felt as a child.
Wow.
And so I have so much love for those outcasts, for those weirdos. And it's because of me not fitting in. So why would I take that away if something so horrible made me so great? I'm taking the great and be grateful for the horrible,
Yeah.
Perspective. So then I started to heal, and this all happened after my divorce. And this is all in my book too, at least as far as my healing after my divorce. But I really believe that forgiving my family, understanding perspective shift, and just saying, oh, this wasn't really there to hurt me. It was something that was put in place to make me who I am. Then I know it was a gift. So then I started, when I go back to Denver now, I'm so in love with my siblings. We're so close.
Wow.
Closer than we've ever been. And they didn't know I suffered. And so I've had conversations with them to say how much I suffered. Like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. They're like, I always thought you were dad's favorite or mom's favorite.
Wow. Wow.
So,
Let's stop really quick there because you just said something that really is super interesting to me. Because you said that you now talk to your siblings a ton.
yeah.
And they didn't even know you were suffering. So I think the communication too is so super key because they probably wanted you to belong, but then in our own mind, and I think sometimes it's self-inflicted, right? Because they've probably been waiting for you as well to reach out, to really like just become connected more than we thought we were.
Right.
And so by bottling everything, and you bottled it at 14, you moved away at 19, and then you had your marriage that didn't work out. And when we bottle things up, it gets filled up with even more crap, right? And so the more that we let go of those rather than later, the less it gets filled up with negativity. But then the more we keep it within and bottle it, the more it gets filled up with even more, and then even more. And then you have like the outburst when you come home to Colorado.
Right.
Because it becomes so much and you never let go of it. So I am so excited that you talk about this. When you were 14 and you were different, were you bullied at all?
Surprisingly enough, they were intimidated by me. I went to a very diverse school, and they tried to desegregate schools in Denver. So you had a large part of the Black community come to the suburbs, and a lot of us went to their neighborhood, like during our elementary school years. And so, but we still segregated. It was so funny. Even though we're desegregated, we're still segregated. And so the one thing, the Black girls were really tough in school, and nothing against Black people. I'm not by all means racist, but they were the tough ones. Like, you didn't mess with them. And, but I could dance. And so even though I was goth, I could dance like Janet Jackson. Like, I have really good dance moves. And so they bonded with me over that. But I think I was such a weirdo, Kareen, that they were intimidated by me. So I didn't get bullied as much as people were just like kind of afraid of me. And in some ways, I mean, my high school was just like, it's in the suburbs of Denver, but it looked like a prison. It was horrible. and
Dang.
so, but I felt like having that protective thing of being different, actually, it protected me because then nobody would
Wow.
mess with me. so,
Interesting.
so no, I of course people made fun of me, but it was to me that making fun of me was a sense of pride
Mm.
because I got attention.
Ooh.
And that was the big thing. I didn't get attention as a kid, and all of a sudden I'm getting attention.
Wow.
So actually just saying that right now really struck a chord with me because it is a lot of why I probably did what I did, you know?
So you were hungry for it
I
because
was
your family
starving,
didn't.
not
Okay.
hungry, starving for attention.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is part of my issues in adulthood. So I still
Yeah.
crave attention. This is probably why I do everything that I do. I'm such an attention whore, I guess.
Ah, I think we all are when we're like so social,
I know, right?
because we give so much attention to people that we maybe have a subconscious expectation that we should get what we give, right?
Yeah.
But but the law of attraction also works its magic that we get what we give out there and we'll put out in the world, right? Because you're all about law of attraction.
Yeah.
So you said something about when you were 14, you were goth when nobody was even goth. Like, how did you learn about goth? Did you just like do it without even having a model?
I
Or
listened to music videos all the time. There was a
Mhm.
local TV station in Denver that played for 2 hours. It played alternative videos. So I listened to
Mm.
a lot of music. Music was my influence, and there was a couple people that we kind of started out new wave, listening to The Cure and Depeche Mode, and this is in 1987. Shows you how old I am, but
Dating you back there, girl.
a little bit. But it was back, when it started out light, but then I would watch these videos and I would just get enamored by the look. And so I just started doing it. And Denver did have, even though there was a small amount of us, it was still a decent amount.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, my influence was music and then a couple people, but I really was at the forefront of, I was wearing like a big sombrero hat and long gloves, and
Wow.
I was wearing like pointy shoes. I did this crazy and black, white makeup, black lipstick. I did it all.
Amazing.
It's kind of funny.
I wouldn't like think of you if I met you today without hearing your story. And this is what's cool about a podcast because you can really dive deep into somebody's, depending on, on the idea of your platform, to talk about these details because we go through like so many versions of us. I tell my husband, you probably slept with 7 versions of me.
I love that. That's interesting.
Because we grow through a lot of our struggles. We we get influenced by outside influence, when we enroll ourselves into masterminds, peer-to-peer retreats, those things can really influence us. But those things mostly, for me, influence me in the most positive way and really just up level my game.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm so excited to hear all of your gifts from your childhood. Now, when you became an adult, 'cause you moved away at 19 and you call yourself weird. You came to the weirdest city on planet Earth, which is Portland.
This is home.
What happened? What happened when you got to Portland? Did you just like figure it out, or?
You know what? It was the first time in my life that I felt right.
Mm.
Like I was like, oh, I can breathe. Like for one, I never really liked Denver. In Portland, like the second I stepped foot here, I was just in love. And
Wow.
luckily in high school, I went to a vocational school called the Career Education Center. And so I had 2 years with the Academy of Travel and Tourism. So I worked in hotels. So I got a job at the Marriott. And again, that started building up my self-esteem. I had my own apartment. Back then things were a lot cheaper. I could afford an apartment.
Yes.
And I started building this life that was about me. And I didn't have to compare myself to my siblings. It was about me. And then I met my ex-husband soon after. So then that's that next stage of my life that kind of took over.
Wow.
Yeah.
So let's talk about being about you, because I think there's a lot of us that go through this pocket of like confusion or not knowing, right? But not knowing is really exciting for me. I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, going through the process of learning and knowing is exhilarating for us. But you said you came here without knowing, but also you left something and you let go of something. And I think there's so much power in that when you're in the pocket of letting, like you want to let go, but you're afraid what's going to happen on the flip side, on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, no, not all of us have to move away from, far, far away like you did, but it's also one way to do it. So you did it one way, and some people may just move out of the house to like really create a new space, or maybe the space that you usually had, you emptied it.
Yeah.
Did you feel, because you felt free and excited when you came to Portland?
I
Was
did.
that maybe the transition that happened to you energetically? Is that you like took away whatever was anchoring you down and then you emptied it out?
Yeah, I think, I got, my self-esteem was so bad in Denver before I left. And I was just so depressed. I think that's when I moved away. Getting a fresh start feels so good when you're down. Like, I think there's one thing when being depressed and you stay in that situation, it just keeps you, just horrible, even the thought of it. So
Yeah.
by me moving away, even though I didn't know where I was going to go, that still was better than being depressed. Like it shifted my energy. Like you said, that shift your energy, because I knew moving away, like I felt energetically by me moving away, I was able to really be me without having to have this external facade. I can just be me. Yeah. I'm not sure if that's where
I think I think you emptied your bottle, because remember you talk about the bottle, right? And you put all these nasty thoughts, nasty experiences, adversities, struggles, whatever it is that you're like in the bottom of the bottle. So
I
you
think,
haven't.
yeah.
Go
And I
for
think
it.
part of it is I just didn't, it was the time for me. I was with my ex-boyfriend. I actually moved out here with him, but we were kind of not really together. It was more like, we just did the move, but then I got my own place. But it was like, for the first time, I felt like I was focusing on me. And the problem is very soon after I met my ex-husband. And so then that kind of stopped. And it's funny because people talk about, when you're going through personal development, they're like, remember that time, think back of a time where you're really happy, or your life got so traumatically terrible or whatever. And I always went back to that brief 6 months of when I first moved here, because it was about me. I had my own apartment. I had a job that I loved, and I was paying my bills. There was something really rewarding about that at that time, but it only lasted for 6 months.
Wow.
And I got lost.
When did that me circle back? Like, when did you decide? And you can either share the story of it or not. It's up to you. When did you decide that, you know what, it's time to go back to me again?
16 years later at my divorce.
Woo, girl.
It was crazy. Yeah. For all those years. And no, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not saying my whole relationship was terrible, but I'm such a supportive personality. I'm such a giver. And so when I'm in a relationship, especially, I think a lot of women are like this, actually. We're very supportive of our partners. And so I just kind of did whatever he wanted to do. I was very much I went along and just lived his life. And it wasn't really the life I wanted necessarily, but I did do things. I became a nurse, and I loved being a nurse, and I found something I'm good at. But it didn't, through those 16 years though, I was still like whatever my husband wanted. And to focus on ourselves is it's almost like you shouldn't do that. You got to, help other people, be there for other people, and so I didn't even understand this concept of self-love. And I didn't understand this concept of, I got to take care of me first before I take care of other people. I didn't even understand that until my divorce.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think, and I've been there. I've been there where I didn't know what self-love was. I only was chasing for the wrong things. And luckily we've got some rough patch in the beginning of our marriage, and luckily we stuck together. And I think that when I communicated to my husband, and we're switching now to like more of like a marriage counseling here. But when I started my journey with the spiritual and personal development journey, it became even more rough for us because now I'm vibrating in like so much more different
Mm-hmm.
level, and I was chasing that's when I actually woke up to the reality where I've been chasing all the wrong things. I've been leading with how much money I'm making, with what title I can get in the banking industry, with what title I can get as an insurance agent owner, in my insurance practice. How many people I can have working for me because it looks so grandeur. Like I was looking into life with those kinds of lenses.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I woke up to reality and realizing that, and I've always had older friends, like most of my friends are like 5, 10, 15 years older than me. So I've always been like hanging out with people that think differently.
Mm-hmm.
But then also I wasn't ready when you're younger, to like think the same way as but they've been all along just like showing me around life.
Mm-hmm.
And one day it just like hurt enough for me personally in my practice that I felt like I started asking questions. Like, is this really for me? Am I really seeing life through the lenses that I should be seeing life through?
Mm-hmm.
So I have all these books that I've never read before, and I started picking them up. But the one book that really changed the way that I thought was Halftime. So if you've never read the book,
Yeah.
and a lot of my friends were turning 50 around the age that I was 35,
Mm-hmm.
and Halftime is like for a midlife crisis.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I had my midlife crisis really early on because I had friends that were already going through it.
Uh-huh.
So it's about, accumulating wealth during your first half of your life. And then when you turn 50, you start feeling empty, even though you've achieved everything
Uh-huh.
because you were chasing all the wrong things. And now you're looking for more meaning in life.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, why do I have to wait till I turn 50?
Yeah.
And like that was really the turning point for me. And I still have that book. And to this day, I recommend it to people, no matter how much younger they are from 50, because society has its standard, right? Like midlife around 50, 48, 49. Not for me. Like I want to learn faster and quicker than everybody else. So when you went through your divorce, did you feel free that it was time for Michelle again?
Oh, absolutely.
Did you
And
go
it took,
back to that first 6 months of your life in Portland?
um, you know, I think it was no. I would yes and no. Yes, because I think at the time I was a little bit spiritual, like I was dabbling with Taoism and meditating a little bit.
Oh,
And so one thing that I did is after my divorce is I started meditating, and that's when life fully changed for me. I actually had a spiritual awakening, and it was
wow.
at that point where like I felt like it was a near death experience just through meditation. And at that moment I never saw life the same. And the blessing of my career as a nurse is I have always seen life in a very precious form. Like it's about the love you
Mm,
give, it's about the love you receive more than anything. That's to me was always my drive, not money. But it was at that point that I realized we're all spiritual beings, and that in this moment of awakening, it was everything after was like I had a near death experience. And I read stories about near death experiences because everyone who went through it went through what I went through, which is seeing life in the most beautiful light and more love than you could ever imagine. And so that was the part where it's like you like connecting on a deeper level, and to me with spirituality was the turning point. And so the 6 months when I first moved here was a taste of this person in me that had dreams and had these desires. And I wanted to move to France, and I wanted to be an airline stewardess, and I
wow.
wanted to travel the world. And I did travel a lot. My ex-husband and I traveled a lot, so I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful for where my life has led me for sure. But it is that turning point. It was my spirituality and by far.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Taoism, love it.
Mm-hmm.
You and RIP to Wayne Dyer. Did you used to
Oh,
like
I love
learn
him
from?
too.
It's
Oh,
like
yeah.
he's like my guru.
I know. I've seen him a couple times. When I saw him, I was like, ah, she's kind of rambles like a grandpa, but like,
He is like a grandpa. It's like I feel like Wayne Dyer's my grandpa.
I know, but like, I listen to his stuff on YouTube all the time. Like, oh my gosh, I love what he says. Like, it so resonates with me.
Have you watched his movie, The Shift?
Yes, so good.
Oh,
Yeah,
no matter how many times I watch that movie, I just like bawl
I know.
because I can't believe that it was like happening in front of me before I was awakened, that I didn't even notice it because I was led in the most wrongful way, the way like I was following a wrong spirit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's it just makes me so happy when I watch it. It's like tears of joy when I watch that movie. And I recommend it to every single person that's in that pocket. Like we talked about that pocket of confusion, whether letting go or not,
Mm-hmm.
and afraid of what's unknown and what's on the other side. And I always tell them, if you're in that pocket, watch this movie. Don't watch it when your kids are running around and you're super like multitasking. I want you to watch it when when everybody's asleep and you only have yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
when it's quiet and like literally when people do it the way that I explained to them, they like come back to me and say like, thank you for recommending that, because I think that's just how humans operate, like the first half of the movie, it showcases all the things that we do as humans without even noticing,
Mm-hmm.
like the really things that really truly matters.
Yeah, and so that's what happened after my awakening is I become really aware that I was the creator of my reality, that I was
Mm.
responsible for my life, and in many ways that made me extremely giddy because I'm like, oh my gosh, I can create anything. But then there's also like, oh, I created that. Okay. But it was in that though that it helped me recover and heal from my pain. So the thing is, people are so afraid of getting deep. I became a certified soul coach after my awakening because I wanted to
Mm.
know me. I wanted to know me. When I meditated, I would say, I just, please show the real me. I just want to know me because I lived in denial land for so long.
Wow.
And I didn't want to face myself. I really needed that spiritual part of me to hold me while I saw myself with unconditional love.
You really truly become an observer of your own self when you are so awakened. You can literally almost like remove your soul from your body when you're so awakened, when you're
Yeah.
meditating, and
Uh-huh.
like look at your body. I don't know how to explain it exactly, but it just gives me like chills so my up my spine when I talk about it, because I'm like so aligned with you right there
Yeah.
that I can literally keep this whole podcast going talking about the spirituality
I
of
know it's my
things.
favorite subject.
Mhm. What kind of RN were you, Michelle?
So I worked at a big hospital here in Portland, intermediate care. So I was a full-time charge nurse for 9 years and worked nights. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
And I loved it though. I worked with a lot of respiratory failure, heart failure. I worked with a lot of patients with cystic fibrosis, and they
Mm.
die young. So I really had a fascination with the dying, actually. And even in nursing school, I knew I wanted to be a hospice nurse. So then the last 2 years as I was a nurse, I worked in hospice. And that was really what truly shifted me to follow my dream, which is what I'm doing now. And because I saw that life is limited. I saw that people suffer when they shouldn't suffer
Mm.
over and over again. And, when you're faced with death on a daily basis, as I was, you don't take life for granted.
Mm-mm.
You don't, of course, I have my pity party days, but in general, I don't sit there and go, oh, I'll never be this. I'm like, why not live full out? You combined my experience in nursing with my spirituality. And to me, life is just an experience. Why not live full out?
Yes.
So I definitely get scared sometimes, but then I go, well, you know what? I'm going to die anyway. And I
Yeah.
wish everybody had that experience, either to work around the dying, around the sick, because, you know, we complain all the time. And again, I do it too. But at the end of the day, I can leave that hospital floor. I can walk on my own two legs. I can feed myself. In fact, I tell you, the happiest person I ever met, he was 45 when I met him as a patient of mine. And when he was 18, he was shot in an accidental hunting accident and shot in the face.
Mm.
So he was a quadriplegic, couldn't use his arms or his legs. He'd had a voice box to speak. His family's been taking care of him all of these years, turning him every 2 hours, feeding them, doing everything. And he
Wow.
was the happiest person I ever met, Kareen. And how was that possible?
Mm-hmm.
How is that possible? And it's possible because we all have the ability to be happy within. It has nothing to do with anything outside of us.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I know that when you connect spiritually, you're like, whoa, this is just an experience. How could I love more?
Mm-hmm.
How could I give more? That's, to me, the message of life. How can
Yeah.
we love? How can we give? How can we be of service?
We get so fixated into the extrinsic stuff
Mm-hmm.
when everything truly, like happiness, joy, everything is in us. Everything.
Yeah.
We
Oh,
just
yeah.
have to unleash it. And I know that it's easier said than done, but I think removing the fixation of, you know, I mean, I like to drive nice cars, but I don't have to have, I know for a fact that I don't have to have nice cars.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, I don't like, we get fixated with the humanistic stuff
Well,
and it ruins us.
yeah. And I teach a group called Law of Attraction for Happiness here in Portland. And it's a meetup group. And every group I start out saying, what brought you joy today? So everybody goes around the room and they say what brought them
Mm.
joy. And I've been doing this for years, for 7 years. And like every time, you know what brings people joy? It's their puppy dog, or I just watched the rain come down. It was so beautiful when the rainbow came
Oh,
up, or like, oh, I was out in my garden and it felt so good to smell the fresh air. That's what brings people joy over and
mm,
over and over again. And what brings us joy is those materialistic possessions. And the thing is, I'm not saying we don't deserve them. I think it's great, but it's more like, well, that's nice, but really what brings me joy is
mhm.
simple things, right?
Yeah. When did you transition out of RN to becoming who you are now? Because
Yeah.
there had to be a transition, right?
Yep. It was last March, so it's almost a year, which is crazy. And thank
Congratulations.
you. The universe has a way of pushing you out the door, just so you know, and all the listeners know. It's like cosmic 2x4. And, I've been a nurse, for 15 years. I've been coaching for about 8 years now.
Mm,
And but everything's been on the side. Like I wrote a book, but I couldn't get it out. There's so many things I knew I could do, but I didn't have time because I was working full time. And what topped that off is I had a horrible boss. She was so
mm.
mean. I hope she doesn't hear this.
They're always a godsend.
But she was so mean,
As
and I thought,
awful as they are a
I
godsend.
know, right? And I remember the day I quit, I'm like, I was so afraid to even tell her. Like the woman intimidated me so much. And I was so scared, Kareen. Quitting my job was the scariest thing I've ever done because I did not quit with a safety net. I didn't quit with that, nice savings account and a cushion or anything. I quit because I believed in myself. I quit because I
Mm,
looked at my dying patients and said, I cannot wait. And
mm.
so I jumped. And I have no regrets at all. It's been amazing. Now, has it been easy? No,
Never. That's
not
never
easy.
easy.
But again, me with my spiritual beliefs, my beliefs in the law of attraction, my beliefs in myself and who I am, who I become, and the people who believe in me. Right? You need your tribe. I have so many people who believe me and support me. But I still have my RN license. I'm not going to give that up. I'm not quite
Mhm.
sure what to do.
Got my insurance, girl. Had it for 10, 11 years.
Oh, really? So you're not doing insurance either? Are you not doing
I
that?
still service. Yeah, I do. I don't like go after it as hard as I used to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
But see, being a nurse to me was always, that's what was my purpose. And so I didn't come into this life because I was tired of nursing. I
mhm.
came into this life after my spiritual awakening because it became very clear that I had a mission on this earth to do something big for people, to help them live. And as a nurse, yes, I can help lots of people and I loved my patients, but I know I'm being called to something bigger. So
Yeah.
we'll see. It's kind of, you really have to live this life in faith, Karine, because I have no idea where it's going to go. I just keep saying
It's
that.
actually the most exciting way to live it.
It
It actually allows you to actually live it, if
Yes.
that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. It's a
Because,
journey. Yeah.
well, we become robots when we have 9 to 5s, and I'm not, I mean, I loved my 9 to 5. Like, I love the banking industry because I get to touch a lot of people's lives. I loved my insurance practice. I practiced for 7 years. But what I love about it is that I made so much impact during those times of my years that I still to this day have my clients as friends. In fact, one of my client just, well, I call him client, but he really isn't my client anymore. But one of my clients in the insurance went to the Facebook page of this is a large corporation insurance that I worked for, one brand, and he commented on one of their posts, which was like, I loved it, but at the same time, like I felt so bad that he did because he says in, and he's older too, so he's got a lot of years in him, that the best blank agent that I've ever had to this day is still Kareen Mills. And he tagged me on it. And I'm like, oh, like I haven't been an agent for 15 years. I mean, since 2015 for him. But you know, those are like the reminders.
Yeah.
You probably get a lot of those little reminders that
Oh yeah. I
you're
have
on the
plants, I
freaking
have cards.
right track.
Yeah, I have things all the time that remind me of the service that I've done with other people. And it's just, and I don't take any of it for granted at all. Like, I'm always so grateful that I've touched people's lives. That's all that matters to me. How can
Exactly. Really, when we all go, what matters is how much impact did we leave, right? And so we lead with impact every single day. This podcast, your podcast, and a lot of other people's podcasts that I continuously listen to and always leaves an impact with me, because literally we're all designed to be puzzle pieces of the puzzles, and we're supposed to learn from each other. We're not supposed to be perfect, because it'd be super boring if that's
Right.
if that's the
And
case.
nobody is.
No one.
Nobody's perfect.
No one
Even
is.
the ones who say they're perfect are like the most imperfect. In my
Yes, I know.
I own my imperfections. It's more, it's kind
For
of
sure. So I do have a lot of moms, and I, you know, like with my group coaching business, because I actually shied away from the one-on-one because it's not from a business standpoint, it's not scalable.
uh-huh.
I mean, you can make a ton of money, but also pour in a lot of time in one person only. And so to multiply my impact, I really made a decision this year to do group coaching only, and it's online so I can reach the world.
Uh-huh.
But one of the things that I guess you can call it a 60-second or 15-second commercial, is to help other mom entrepreneurs overcome overwhelm
Mm-hmm.
and organize it into abundance, to hopefully not treat their business like a hobby, but instead turn their side hustles into full-time income.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's like my clarity this year, that I'm like, okay, those are the moms that I'm going to help. So with your transition from RN, and you didn't have any game plan, you didn't have a lot of savings put away or whatever, because I have a lot of moms, I know this because they reach out to me in DMs and social media, that listens to this podcast, that are so super afraid to make that switch. And maybe like you, maintain a job while maintaining a side hustle. And when did you feel that it was right for you to finally leave the one behind and like go full force in the one that you have right now?
Well, again, I think a lot of it was just faith. And what's interesting is, so my soulmate, my sweetie, he is owns a business. He's beyond an entrepreneur. I say he's a business owner now. He has like, I don't know, 6 or 7 employees right now. But when I met him, he was really, really struggling. And so for the first 2.5 years, you know, I kind of helped him, even though he never wanted my money. But I'm like, baby, here, we're a team. We're going to help each other.
Yeah.
And
that's what it's all about.
So the great thing is, I couldn't consider myself an investor, because what I did, now he's doing well and he's able to support me. And so it's interesting, because I used to well, so because my dad left when I was so young, my sisters and I, there's 3 boys, 3 girls in my family. All of us sisters, the girls, we're all like, no, we're going to be independent. Nobody's going to ever take care of us.
Same with us.
Yeah, I will never let a man take care of me. And here
Mhm.
I'm having my sweeties support me. And yet I'm like, if it wasn't for him, I couldn't be doing what I'm doing. And I had
Yes,
a friend
girl.
point that out to me. She goes, God provides in all ways. In all ways. It doesn't have
Through
to look
people.
like, right, it's through people.
Hmm.
And he gives me all the credit for his abundance because of my coaching, my law of attraction coaching. He says, and I really did coach him a lot. And his mindset really changed, and he's now making he went from making 70,000 one year to $1 million the next year. Like, talk
Amazing.
about a big
Woo.
step. So there's still a part of me that struggles. Like, okay, I'm really grateful that he's here to support me, but I'm like, I gotta start doing this on my own. But I think the message, one thing I'm learning, and I'm going to be just transparent about this, I'm learning that it's okay to let people take care of you.
Yes.
And that's something I never grew up with. And I've always been independent, always.
Yep.
And it's okay to let people take care of you. And as women, we have a hard time with that, don't we?
Very much so, especially when you grew up in the environment like you did and my environment, because I've always sworn to the universe that I will never depend on anybody. Like, I will always figure it out, or I will always have a skill set. And maybe because my mother didn't have a high school education either.
Mm-hmm.
So with me, like having the education and the background that I have under my belt, I know that if push comes to shove, I can always get a job.
Right.
I can always make it, right?
Right. Me too.
But with our background, I used to say a lot of those, but it's so, your life is so super parallel to mine because you had 6 siblings. There's 6 of us, 2 in ours and 3 and 3.
Right. Uh-huh.
3 and 3.
Uh-huh.
And we grew up in the girls were always like, we'll never depend on a man because of how we saw our mother struggle and she had no option. Right. And I think that's just it. Like we just said, we will never be without options. We will always have options. And so what's funny that you said now too, that as I'm growing is I'm also learning that it's okay to be taken care of. Yeah. And it feels good to be taken care of because really? Because when I opened my insurance practice, my husband, that was in 2008. So I'm like this crazy woman, crazy entrepreneur to open a new business. And like the month of the crash, October 2008, when we got all the AIG news that they were being bailed out by our government. So my dad always says that, Kareen, you're always so crazy. And then my husband, prior to that, month before, he was laid off. So not only that I had a new business, I also had a husband that didn't have any work, where the original plan was to depend on his income because he made pretty good money, right? And so the whole plan didn't work. And so I had to like sink or swim. So I figured it out and I took care of the family for 5 years. And when the 5th year hit, he got a job and was just really good job, had all the benefits and everything. He had a hard time being so overqualified for a lot of the jobs that was opening. So he actually stayed home while I hustled hard. And when he finally got a job and the kids were in school and everything, I became this mom that wanted to be mom, just wanted to be mom because I had never been that. And so I said to my husband, I think it's your turn. I think I'm so done with this business. It's taking too much of my energy. It's draining me. I love my customers, but what really hurts me and that just like breaks my heart when a customer has a claim that is not covered. Like I'm so passionate about my customers and I know there's rules and I know that legally the insurance company has a lot of leg to stand on when they make these decisions, but it's just not humane to me. Like like my clients, I sold them a promise and the promise is not being delivered and I feel so bad. Like those are the moments that always drain me in my industry. So now it's like my husband's turn and that was 2015. And like, I love that you said that because I've never told that story. And it allowed me permission to like really put in my story in there with yours. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Well, I think we just should be grateful for all the help we get. And,
Hmm.
when I quit my job, I had some money, but not enough to get me by for a couple months. And I wasn't even sure if my sweetie was getting money in yet. Like he contracts were starting to happen, but the money still wasn't there. So
Hmm.
it literally, Corrine, was on faith. And I have to preface this by saying I'm a Capricorn, and people know about Capricorns, but I'm very straight and forward, by the book, like
Wow.
I am not one to live in uncertainty. And because my spiritual belief was so strong, I mean, I tell people that there is a strength within the divine that if you just hold on to it, it will get you through. And I just kept holding on to that. I kept holding on to it. And sure enough, he started getting monies, and then but it's just amazing and miraculous how it happened.
Yes. But life is so easy when you do that.
It is. And all the players are coming to me. I mean, I do this video called 365 Days of Joy, and I came out
Yes.
last May. And so I'm on day 264, I think.
That's a
And
beautiful thing. I
it's
love
crazy.
that.
It's crazy, but yes, it's but like, Corrine, I can't even tell you how much has shifted in my life since I've been doing those videos. And my mission is to show people you follow your joy, life will work out. You have to have that faith and just follow your joy, and it's working out for me because things are really amazing how it's just working out. So it's
Congratulations. That's
yeah,
wonderful.
yeah.
I
So
love it.
I just, I hope people listening, like when they're afraid to take the leap and say, well, I don't have the money, I'm like, I get it. Well, I don't have insurance, I get it. Like, I get all of that. And luckily my boys, their dad had insurance with them, so I didn't have to worry about that. And another thing about kids, I want to bring this up for you and I, by us being the badasses that we are, we're showing
Mm,
our kids
thank
to do
you.
it themselves. And my mom was amazing, and all six of us just, we loved her so much, and we all turned out really, really good because she loved us so much, but she also showed us her strength to know we have it in us too. And so you and I, by showing up to the world, we're doing a favor to our kids.
Yes, girl.
Yeah.
I hear you with that. So what are your kids' names?
Aiden and Sebastian. So I have a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old, almost 13.
Oh,
Almost.
we have boys too. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I feel like you're me, and I hope you feel like you're me.
It's so funny. My best friend's also Filipino, and so we always joke like she's the brown version of me.
Oh my goodness. Now you have two.
I love it. I love it.
So Aiden and Sebastian, which one's like oldest?
Aiden's the oldest. Uh-huh.
What would what would you tell Aiden if he was listening today?
I think he is listening today. He's upstairs. Well, one thing I love about my boys, and it's just I believe and love them so much. They know that. I tell them all the time that I love them. I think
Mm,
parenting has to be more about love than it is about discipline. I know a lot of
hmm.
people like you got to,
Seriously.
hard, fist down, and all that. But my mom raised all six of us with love, and I feel like with my boys, they know I love them and respect them, and so they respect me. And I'm just so proud of them. I tell them all the time. In fact, it's a big joke. I'm like, have I told you lately how proud I am of you?
I know.
He said,
Like, mom, stop. Too much already. Well,
yeah,
just in case you didn't hear.
yeah. But I
The
also,
first million times.
yeah. And my oldest son, especially, I see him being an entrepreneur as well. He's got the entrepreneur spirit. And so I'm just really proud that I can kind of pave the way. And, he helped me set up this microphone, and, this is my cat.
That's
He's
so
also
cute.
supporting in this family. If you see me on video. But yeah, it's just, I love my boys so much. And you probably can relate. Like, my boys inspire me, and they keep me going, and they keep me grounded as well. Like, they keep me present. Like, being with them is my happy place. I have them
That's
half
beautiful.
time, so I don't take them for granted at all.
They enhance our life, let me tell you. As hard as it is to be mothers and mother hustlers at the same time, they truly teach you a lot of lessons. And I tell my kids all the time, look, that's a lesson that I learned from you. And they look at me like, whoa, like mom actually learns from us, and that's huge for them
Mm-hmm.
because it makes them feel like they're super important. It makes them feel like you literally can't live without them because they teach you lessons. So
Yeah.
I think that's cool how you raise your voice.
Yeah, we're really, really close. And they're both redheads like me, so I love when we go out in public. We look We look so much alike, and we all have
That's
like
so
the same
cool.
hair on the one side. They don't have a flip like I do, but we all have like hair on one side, and they're so cute.
What's your mama's name?
Carol.
What message would you tell Carol if she was listening today?
Oh, she needs to be on the show and tell you what it's like to be a mother.
Oh, I'll be happy to have her on the show. So intro her to me and I'll set it up.
She's actually, you know what I love about my mom. I want to share this with all of you because this to me is a great story. But here she raised all six of us, really, struggled, but always had a positive attitude. Always came from a place of everything's going to be okay. She always had that attitude, and she
Mhm.
made it work, right? And there were some bumps. We lost our house when I was 15. The taxes, and it's long
Yep.
story. But she was a fighter, survivor. And now she's married to a man who's very well off, and she's living the dream. Like, they're actually on a cruise right now to Panama.
Good for her.
To safari in Africa in a couple months. And this is my cat. She's looking at you. If you see the
Hey,
video.
baby. I love those eyes. Look at those eyes.
But so I think my mom and all six of us would say she's the most amazing, powerful woman. And even my dad says that. He constantly gets choked up about what a great job she did to raise us kids. And he gives, I mean, we're all close to my dad too now, but he gives her all the credit. And
Good. He should.
he always thought she should write a book on her life. And I keep telling her she should, because she's so inspiring. And yeah, she's my absolute best friend. I talk to her every day. So her being on this cruise is
wonderful.
hard for me because we can't talk every day.
Cool. Hook her up with me and I mean, if she's open to it, I'm always down,
Yeah. The only thing is she's hard of hearing, so that may be a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just commend you for the way that you show up in this world, and thanks for hosting a podcast that, speaks my language, and I'm sure is starting to speak a lot of people's language. The law of attraction is for freaking real.
It is.
And so thank you. And in action, like you're putting motion into the law of attraction by adding the inaction word in there. So thank you for doing that. And thanks for your association. We were introduced by Rachel O'Rourke, who's also doing amazing, amazing things. So
yeah,
I commend you. Before I go to my last question, can you please tell us where to find you? Social media, website. If you are offering anything for free, this would be the moment that you can share that information.
Yes, awesome. And Corinne, I just have to say, I'm so grateful for what you're doing and being so vulnerable and authentic with this program. I love it. This was a lot of fun. And
Yeah,
I'm
you're
excited
welcome.
to post your podcast. I'll be posting it this week where
I can't wait
on
to
my
hear.
podcast, Law of Attraction Action. It was so fun. And just to hear a bit about your vulnerabilities. So yay, this is awesome. So yeah, you can find me at my website, michele-joy.com. That's MICHELE-JOY.com. I'm also offering a free 5 ways to raise your vibration fast. So if you go on my website, you can link to it. I also put in a couple bonuses, including I was on Abraham Hicks. So I was on the hot seat and I posted a video
Nice.
where I was picked and talked, and which I thought,
Awesome.
and some other videos. So I have some freebies on there. So definitely go on my website and sign up. But yeah, as far as my podcast, Law of Attraction and Action, I also do my 365 Days of Joy. So that's you can connect with all that my website. And I also have my book called Thrive and Shine: How to Find Happiness When Life Falls Apart. And that's about my journey after my divorce and finding myself, and how you can too. So it's a self-help, and I have exercises, and I have also guided meditations on my website. So it's kind of exciting, Corinne, to actually say all this out loud, because sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I do all that. Like,
that's me.
You ever do that? You're like, oh wow, like, you know what, people, I just made it happen. I didn't get any permission. Nobody says, here, Michele, this is how you do it. Like, the universe just kept plugging ideas, and I just did it. And the connections, the fact that Rachel connected me with you, and this web of connections, that's how life works. Just say yes and be open, and come from a place of love. So
yeah. I always say I give God and the universe free downloads all the time.
Yeah,
they download it all the time. They got free downloads. This is my app right here.
Yeah, that was Law of Attraction Action was a divine download. So was the 365 Days of Joy. And it's so funny because I did both of them right away, and then after I'm like, oh, I really don't know what I'm doing.
When I am in the shower for some reason, and Dr. Carol Parker Walsh actually said that there is science to it, that when the water hits your skin, it induces ideas and it creates like, that's why our creative mind like kicks in the shower. And like, it's super hard for me. So now I have like these little notepads in the drawer in my dresser. So when I get out of the shower, even when I'm still like semi wet, I still like write these ideas because I immediately lose them when I get out of the shower if I don't. So
Yeah.
for those of you that resonates with that here listening, please do the notepad or the sticky notes or whatever it is that you do, or like to write in your phone notes, because those are the freaking best ideas that come to me in the shower.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I'm in the
last
shower
question.
when I'm
Last,
driving.
yes.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Last question. When you heard the word mother hustler, what came into your mind and how would you describe that word to the listeners?
Well, I would think my mom. Like she was a mother hustler, that is for sure. But I think it's about just, being a mother is such a privilege. And it is like I love, even like the capital M really resonates with me, the mother hustler, because it's like I am a mother. Like that in itself makes you
Mhm.
awesome in my book. And the hustler is we juggle so much. That's
Yeah.
how I see it. We are always juggling and we're just moving. So it's a get out of my way. I got this. That's
Yep.
right. I love that.
Awesome, girl. Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank
And
you. This
I
was a
can't
lot of
wait.
fun.
This is a lot of fun too for me. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And we're gonna be talking again. This is not the end.
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me.